systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we are reviewing the results from week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the Survivor Pool experience. We'll talk about the recommendations we made for last week, how they worked out, what didn't. And then we're also going to take a look at the various pools that we've been tracking with our users, including myself, to see what we did, how many people are left, and make this into a little bit of a sweat as well. For those of you who are not premium members yet, I strongly encourage you to become premium members. You are, again, this is a really important time in the Survivor Pool business where you really want to learn how all this works. So really, I would say a sweet spot of about 3 years where you're going to have a combination of huge action and nobody really knowing how to play. So it's really important to take advantage of that. And the premium show on Wednesdays is when we really dive in and, get well into the weeds with these teams and these concepts and these strategies. So this one we are going to talk about last week, and you'll see that the tool is still set at last week's EV, which is kind of what I wanted to show you anyway. And first of all, let's talk about the teams. So we did identify Detroit and Baltimore and Seattle as being 3 teams that if you had available, there was really no reason to not use them. And I did emphasize that, unfortunately, a lot of your decisions are going to be made for you to some degree, because you're not going to have all the top teams available. And we talked about, again, in both singles and doubles, Detroit, Baltimore, and Seattle, just kind of in order, whichever one you had available, the better. I did say that if it was between Baltimore and Seattle for somehow, you probably would want to use Seattle, only because the Baltimore spots were coming up more recently. So aside from that, I think it was pretty clear that whatever if you had any of these 3 teams, you should kind of unload them. New England, we thought was very important that you saved for either week 13 or week 17. And then after that, it became a little tricky. You had this San Francisco play that I thought was an atrocious play. I really did, in almost all pools. They had a negative EV of 0.87. Not to mention they have a smash spot in week 15. Not to mention that they had a pretty decent spot coming up now in week 13. Not the greatest, but still not bad. So I thought it was very important to save those. So I really didn't like them at all, unless you really had no other options. And we'll talk about my pools where I really didn't have any options and I had to play them. But it was a really, really terrible play as far as the numbers go. And then other teams to drop to, we thought if Green Bay was kind of sneaky, if you only had them available, it wasn't bad. And then the Rams was, again, it was sort of like a last resort. Their EV was not great. They have spots in week 13 and also in week 18, maybe even 17. But again, it just depended on who you had. And then the team that was like really kind of gross that you had to drop all the way to 0.81 to get was Vegas. And I did think that Vegas in double pick pools was kind of like an unfortunate necessity. Like I really felt as though if it was between Vegas and San Francisco, that you really should play Vegas. I mean, their EV was not that much worse, and they had 0 future value. And I couldn't talk. Looks like I couldn't talk everybody into it. We'll talk about what some of our users did. But even though Vegas did, in fact, lose, they were the only team basically to lose the whole day, the whole week. Actually, Buffalo lost. We didn't like them at all. But it was one of those weeks where everything just kind of shuffled around. Everybody advanced, but all advancements were not created equal. You know, if you advance with San Francisco, I mean, that's great, but you're going to have to come up with something to battle Week 15, where San Francisco is going to be an enormous favorite. Now there are options in 15. We'll get there, but that was the one play I really didn't like that more people played than I would have preferred. Okay, let's take a look at some of these pools and see what the people we've been tracking have done and where we're at in these pools. We'll get back to my high stakes one in a second. So the two I want to look at as far as big pools is the Ship It Nation 250K and also the Splash. Now the Splash big 2.5 million. Now in the Ship It Nation one, we didn't lose many players, but we still got down to 312. And just to kind of show you the breakdown of the stats, I mean, you had the Niners 52% owned. I mean, that was a really, really bad play. Okay. The Raiders, they went down. They had 22%. But everybody advanced. But again, except for the 22% that had the Raiders, unfortunately. But you look at this extreme ownership on the Niners. Like the Ravens, I could see, because at least they didn't have any future value. Well, they had a little bit. They had future value today. So Seattle, I thought, should have been much higher, but I guess they weren't as available, I suppose. So, let's take a look at the who our players played. So Werhane is the first guy who we've been kind of helping track here. And so with him, there were two different pools, and we'll get back to Splash in a minute. In this particular one, he opted to, I guess, take my advice, and play Baltimore and the Rams. That was because when we see the Splash, he went with Baltimore and Vegas. And I thought that one kind of way to handle this Vegas play, which, you know, on the numbers is pretty bad, but you just had kind of very few options, was to maybe play one Vegas and one Rams. And listen, because Vegas lost, I am very glad that he did opt for this strategy, and he ended up advancing. Okay, better advanced than not advanced. Now, again, he doesn't have the Rams anymore, so we're going to have to dipsy-do, you know what I mean, to get through this. But I think that was probably his best option. Let's look at hoops, our own hoop 2410. He had two in this one. And the first one, he had Detroit and Baltimore, and there was literally no reason to not play these. They were two smash plays in doubles. No reason to not play those. The second entry, I did not agree with his approach. I recommended Baltimore and Vegas, and fortunately for his entry, he didn't listen to me, and he went with Baltimore, San Francisco, and did advance. So we'll see if we can get through Week 15, given that approach, and considering also that he had burned Jacksonville in this entry in Week 1, which is going to be important for Week 15. But you know what? Better to be live than dead, I suppose. But so that was the Ship It Nation tournament. Now let's go to the Splash. Let's get rid of this. We'll go to Splash Millie Maker, or whatever it is, 2.5 milli. And in this one, again, just to kind of show you, this is the one where Werhane actually played the W-E-R-H-A. This is where, again, he played Vegas and Baltimore and Vegas, and he went down here. It's the way it goes sometimes. And then we'll go to hoops entries here, which I think were similar, if not identical, to his other ones. And in this one, again, what was good about it was that the previous week he played Dallas in the second part of the entry, which meant that he didn't have to do anything different here than in the Ship It Nation tournament. So he did the same thing in both entries. He played Baltimore, Detroit, which I recommended. I thought there was no reason to not do that. And same story, he played San Francisco. I think that I didn't like that at all, especially considering he had Jacksonville Week 1. But nonetheless, he advanced, and there we go. Down to 537 people there. I do think it's going to go to the end at this point. That was a tough week to not lose anybody. So Take a look, by the way, at the stats from that tournament. Pretty similar as far as distribution goes. Now let's take a look at these two high stakes ones that I'm in. Let's first look at this one. This is the 5K, and I put in a temporary placeholder for the Rams here, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. This was down to 19, and everybody advanced. And in this particular tournament, I had no choice. I mean, I had to play either San Francisco or I could have played New England. Now, what had happened was the week before, as you might recall, I played Pittsburgh specifically to save New England to give me some kind of juice. And I just felt it was important to continue to push that edge and not play New England in week 12. Because I really didn't want to use my New England to battle against those three enormous favorites who were probably going to win. I figured I would push New England back a little bit. So that's why I played San Francisco. There was just because there's no other option given what I had to do. And fortunately, that survived. Title, on the other hand, he played his best play, which was Baltimore. Now, again, I didn't have Baltimore, so I couldn't do it. He did exactly what he's supposed to do, and he advanced rather, obviously pretty handily, I guess. And so everybody kind of advanced and did what they had to do, and there's still 19 left. To show you the stats, by the way, from that tournament, they had 10 people of this 19 played the Ravens, and then 4 Seattles, 4 San Franciscos, and 1 Packers. And none of the teams were really at risk. Actually, the Ravens were at risk for a while. But everybody was won kind of handily. And here, the other big buy-in that I am in, this one's still down to 14. I already started mapping out my future here. We'll see if I actually do this. These are just kind of ideas. I don't know if I'm going to actually play Cleveland or whatever. But in this one, I did have Seattle available, so there was no reason for me to not play them. And likewise, everybody sort of advanced. And in that tournament, again, down to 14, that had 7 had Baltimore, 3 Seahawks, 3 49ers, and 1 Lions. So very similar distribution. So again, nobody really did a lot of damage this past week. And everybody's just kind of just positioning for what is going to be probably a pretty interesting week 13. So I guess a real quick preview of week 13. Let's see if this is updated yet. I don't think so. Take a look real quick. Did it update? I doubt it. Still week 12. But I will say, we look at at least the odds here that are updated in week 13. It's going to be, a choice probably between the 2 biggest favorites. Like most people will have the Chargers available, so that's going to be a decision which people have to make. Then if you still have the Rams, they're going to look good. And then it's all these 7-point favorites, New England, if you still have them, Baltimore, Philly, Jacksonville, talked about them a little bit before. Miami, San Francisco, like all these 6-point favorites are all going to be in play specifically for those people that don't have the Chargers or the Rams. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. But overall, that's pretty much all I wanted to do as far as recapping last week. We're going to get into the weeds. We're going to talk about our contests. I'm going to recommend actual plays to Werhane and Ship It, and Hoop again. We're going to talk about who I think Title should play in the big buy-in. I'll talk about who I might want to play in the big buy-ins. And if you have any questions specific to your own pools, obviously only for premium members, you could drop them in the Discord channel, and I'll get to them tomorrow. And tomorrow's premium show is going to be it'll be Wednesday, right, at 3 p.m. Eastern. That is going to do it. Week 13 coming up. Good luck, everybody.